everyone. I am Jessica Bell from My Wine School, where it is wine your way. And here we are at Winecast number 35, and I've got Karen, my sister, hello, MWS chef and co-host here. I'm told her I'm loving her shirt tonight. It looks great on camera. What are you guys wearing tonight? One of these days we're going to get the cameras on you. And if you're wondering how to say hi to Karen or Emily or my mom, it's really easy. All you have to do is, if you're watching live, off to the right, there is a chat box under audience. Type anything in. It'll take you to this screen. You can either log in or sign up. If you decide to sign up today, then you just fill in the 5 fields and boom, you are a part of the conversation. As I was saying, here we are at Winecast number 36, and this is designed for our wine explorers. Those are people who like to try new things, new regions, new grapes, new wines, and maybe think a little while you're at it. And actually tonight is going to be no exception. I want you guys to put your thinking cap on tonight, because we're talking about red Hot Rioja. And by the end, I'm going to ask you some tricky questions. And the wine that we have here is the García Carrión Antano, and it's a Tempranillo from Rioja, and it's 2009. I see some other wines are being opened tonight. Karen, what's out there tonight?
Well, Emily's drinking the Campo Viejo Crianza from 2007.
Okay.
And Michael has Navarro Lopez, the Old Vines Crianza from 06.
Perfect. So we'll be comparing a little bit with you guys as to what you're tasting out there. And, you know, it's interesting because when I first started, I didn't really know a lot about this wine. So we want to show them the label on this wine. All I really knew about this wine was that it was from Rioja, and the price is fantastic for the quality that it offers. And really, I like any excuse to drink Spanish wine because, as some of you know, Karen and I live there, and there's a place in our heart for anything Spanish. So I knew very little, but I just knew where it was from. And I thought, you know what, I should really look into this wine and find out a little bit more for the purpose of tonight. Well, the first thing I was very curious about was how it is so cheap. Okay, it is about $6.99, and it delivers, or usually, we'll try it tonight, but it usually delivers nicely. And, you know, as I dove into researching about this wine, I felt like this super sleuth as I started to uncover its background. And when I was looking at the history of this wine, I felt like my worlds were colliding a bit. I don't know if that's ever happened to you. It's like when you're out with your girlfriends, you got your tight little skirt on and your high heels, and all of a sudden you run into your first grade teacher or something. It's like you're just like stunned. You're not sure what you should do. Does that happen to you?
No.
Well, not
I don't wear tight little skirts.
Well,
I'm just kidding. Yes.
I
hear ya.
Back then when we had boyfriends, two boyfriends from different parts of your lives would, be in the same room, and you're just stunned. Well, for this wine, as pathetic as it is, that's how I felt, because there were all these wines that I'd seen, but I didn't know they were all related. So I was a bit stunned, and I'll get to the story in a little bit. I'm sure you're wondering what that story is, but we're not going to do that yet. First, what I want to do is dive into Rioja. Like I said, this is the wine that we have today, which is from Rioja, the García Carrión. But first, we got to start from the beginning with Rioja. Very simple. Rioja is in Spain. Okay, we'll start simple. And Spain is not the biggest producer of wine in the world, but they are the country with the most land under vine. So really, everywhere you go in Spain, you just see vines everywhere, and that's even true for a country the size of Spain. Even when compared to America, I wish I was in Spain. Spain still has more land under vine. Not only that, but Spain has been making wine for thousands of years, and those two things together, I think, indirectly, are what makes Spain a place for values. And I really think that Rioja is no exception to these values. And here's the arrow is pointing to that brown region, which is the region of Rioja. And you can see it's north of Madrid. So Madrid is right in the center of the country. It's just north. And Rioja doesn't have the longest history of winemaking in Spain, but it does have probably the most important, the most influential, because it has brought new technology and new ideas to Spain as a whole. So it's a very important region within Spain. Now here's a bit more of a close-up. And you know, we're not going to talk too much about that history tonight because we did a winecast number 31 where we got a little bit more into history and winemaking in Rioja. So go check that out if you're a history buff and want to learn a little bit more about Rioja and its history. But something we didn't cover, are we having problems over there? Or
I'm not sure if it's just Michael.
Okay.
His system's crashing and no sound. Everyone else is...
You know, it's interesting because tonight, every night before I do the winecast, I check the internet connection. And tonight it wasn't as high as it normally was. So it wouldn't surprise me if there's some problems tonight. So let us know. We'll do what we can. Sometimes it's just, it's the connection from outside of the location that we're at. It's something going on with the network. But we'll persevere. We'll push through it. But let us know if it gets too bad. So what we didn't dive into before are the 3 regions within Rioja. And so tonight I want to touch upon this. And this is a great map from Rioja, the Denominación de Origen Calificada of Rioja. The wine website is right there for you if you want to go check it out. Great resource for learning more about Rioja. But what you can't see here, there are mountains to the north of Rioja. And what that does is it protects it from the Atlantic Ocean and some of the northern winds coming down. But here we have 3 major regions, and we have Rioja Alta, which is the yellow region, and it's called Rioja Alta. Alta means high. High is being used in the way of altitude. So Rioja Alta tends to have higher altitude. It's right at the foothills of those mountains, so you get that altitude. And then you have the orange region is Rioja Alavesa, which is fairly similar to Rioja Alta. The main reason for the difference in name is because Rioja Alavesa is part of a state, if you will, Álava. So it's really a political demarcation more than, say, a terroir or a climatic change. Now we're going to keep it simple. We're just going to put Rioja Alta and Rioja Alavesa in that same camp of higher elevations. And then Rioja Baja, that bright pink region, Baja means low. So it's really a lower elevation. Now, when we talk about, excuse me, that's not the right, there we go. When we talk about the grapes that are planted in Rioja, we've got one major grape, which is Tempranillo, which is right there under me. And Tempranillo is going to be the king grape of Spain, and specifically of Rioja. And probably about 70% of the blends are going to be Tempranillo in Rioja. Now the other major grape is going to be Garnacha. Garnacha is going to make up, say, like 10 to 15% of the blends. And then the other 2 I have down there are Graciano and Mazuelo. Now those are, they add nuances, but they're going to be used in very small percentages. So now I want to see if what we've learned in previous wine casts you're going to be able to use here in this first wine IQ. So wine interactive questions are meant to get you involved, and you're going to have to do a little, like I said, thinking today. So put on those thinking caps and take a sip of the wine and see if it becomes easier. But the first wine IQ is if Garnacha thrives in hot climates, while Tempranillo prefers a cooler climate, which of the following should be true? Okay, and we're going to generalize here just because of a lack of space for me to write out these complex relationships. But what I'm trying to say here in A is in Rioja Baja, we'll probably see more Garnacha. Whereas B is saying, Rioja Alta, you'll see Tempranillo. C, Garnacha is going to be in Rioja Alta. Or D, Tempranillo in Rioja Baja. Now, there's actually 2 correct answers here. So which of the 2 are correct? You can pick 2 and see what you think. And while you're doing that, like I said, I want you to know that these are primarily blends in Rioja, but Tempranillo is going to be the high quality grape. And so wherever we see Tempranillo being planted is probably where we're going to see our higher quality wines as well. So I'll give you another peek at the map here so you can use what I just told you about altitude and see what you think. Now keep in mind that these are generalizations. When I say, oh, Rioja Baja or Rioja Alta for Garnacha, what I'm trying to say is that that's what's primarily planted there. for the most part, all 4 of these grapes are going to be planted in all parts of Rioja. So, with that said, let's see what people came up with. Karen, what are people saying?
Well, Emily said A and B, and Michael said B.
Okay, perfect. So yeah, it is. It's A and B. Garnacha with the lower altitudes is going to be warmer. So a warmer climate is Garnacha is going to do better in a warmer climate. Whereas Rioja Alta with the higher elevation, as we talked about before, is going to be cooler, right? You go up higher in altitude, you get a cooler climate. As such, you're going to see more of your Tempranillo. And as I just said, where you find more of your Tempranillo is going to be where you find your higher quality wines. And so Rioja Alta and Rioja Alavesa are where we're going to find the wineries that tend to be producing higher quality wines. Now, I will say that Rioja is an interesting market in that it's not so cut and dry. There are some wineries that have their own vineyards and they source their grapes from their own vineyards. But Rioja is a region where it is common for people to buy grapes from all different parts of Rioja as well. So I know, I muddy the waters up with all these caveats. But I want you to go ahead and try and find where your Rioja is from. Ours is from, it'll say on the back, bottled by and where it is. And ours is La Bastida, which is in Rioja Alavesa. And so see if you can find out on your bottle where your wine, is bottled. And we'll see if you got a Rioja Alavesa or a Rioja Alta. I'll bet you from the wines that I'm seeing you guys have, you're probably Alta or Alavesa. So now we'll see if you guys can find it, but I bet you're probably wondering, Karen, what's the story with this wine?
I'm dying to know.
Right, I know.
Pins and needles.
I know, she's not even listening to me earlier. She's just like, get to your story. So I have 2 words for you. Don Simon.
Oh,
Don Simon, right? So what is Don Simon? Well, for you, that is not an ex-Latin lover of Karen. So that's not what it is. But what does Don Simon mean for you? It probably means a lot.
Yeah. Sangria and wine in a box.
Yeah. Okay. And also Don Simon, those juices.
Yeah, juice too.
I
was drinking more than wine in this.
Yeah, right. I'm like all innocent with my juice comment. She's like, oh, sangria, boxed wine. So, when I heard the words Don Simon, I'm looking up this wine, and I'm seeing Don Simon all over the place. They have these juices in Tetra Paks that are everywhere. Mm-hmm. And like sangria even, and I'm sorry, and the gazpacho was made by Don Simon. I mean, all of these products, and it's a huge company. So what's interesting is that this company started back in the 1890s making wine. And, I said it was your Spanish lover, but it was really my Spanish lover. And the reason is because this company had such an impact on Spain and its consumption patterns that it became a common phrase in the 1980s, I believe, for people to say, I'm having lunch with Don Simon. Okay, Don is like Mr., but like a proper Mr., right? Yeah. So I'm having lunch with Mr. Simone. I mean, it's the equivalent of us in America saying, I'm going out with Jack and Johnny. I'm going out with Johnny Walker and Jack Daniels. So it became integrated into this idea of drinking for lunch or having some wine with lunch. So next time you're out having some wine at lunch, tell them you're having lunch with Don Simon. Mm-hmm. But this company made the juices, but they also, like you said, made a lot of wine, which is not on this wine bottle anywhere. So you kind of got to dig for it. But before we go on with the story, I actually want to go ahead and start tasting these wines. So go ahead and check out the color of your wine. See what you see on your wine. I want to know what color you get on your wine. And the reason is because Tempranillo from Rioja, it tends to be a little on the lighter side. Now this one, ours is not on the lighter side. This is a nice medium ruby color. It's not very light. Some of the older style Riojas would be more of a paler color, and even with time and age would start taking on more of a garnet hue. But Garnacha also is a thin-skinned grape, which would mean that would also indicate less color. So any comments out there, Karen?
Well, just people coming in with where their wine's from. So Emily's is from Logroño.
Mm-hmm. So Logroño is actually Rioja Alta.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
And then he's saying that it says Campo de Calatrava La Mancha.
Huh. Is that where it says it's bottled from, I wonder? Campo de Calatrava, because La Mancha, that's more west. So I don't know. That's interesting. It would be interesting if it says bottled. Maybe the company's based in Navarro Lopez Old Vines Crianza Tempranillo. You know what? You might have a Ribera del Duero. Actually, no, that's Navarro Lopez. I'm almost positive that's a Rioja. So I don't know. That's interesting. Also says the state of Valdepeñas. Now that's south of Madrid, Valdepeñas. So you've just got like an interesting wine there, Michael, all over.
It's from La Mancha, Valdepeñas.
Yeah, because La Mancha is south and a little south. Yeah, directly south. Valdepeñas is also south. So I don't know if it, Michael, would be interesting is if it says Rioja on the bottle. It might just be a La Mancha wine from Tempranillo. So that's a great point, is that Tempranillo is, actually Emily posted something on Facebook today that I think Tempranillo has something like, how many synonyms, Emily? I think it was like, what was it, 500 or 600? Nah, that can't be right. But what's interesting is that, yes, based on where it's grown, it'll have a different name. And Tempranillo is really grown all over Spain. Rioja, because it's a leader within Spain, really has become synonymous with Tempranillo, but you find it all over the place. So 60 plus, 500, I said. That was great. Not dramatic at all. Oh, there's like 500 synonyms. You need to know them all for your sommelier exam. Okay, so talking about color, any thoughts on color?
Emily said hers was a little bit lighter than she expected. Maybe it has to do with the age. She does have a 07.
Yep, so definitely. And you have Crianza, okay? So we here have we just have a Joven, which is a young wine. So this means it sees little to no oak. Whereas Emily, yours is seeing at least 12 months of oak. And so that color starts to drop out over time. Perfect. And that's usually more typical for it to be on the lighter side. And as it gets older, it'll continue to get lighter and more. And Rioja's brown really quickly on this, the rim part, not the core, right? I'm getting way too, I'm enjoying this wine tonight. There's nothing left to show you. Great. Now, the next thing I want you to do is check out the nose on your wines and tell me what you get. Riojas are interesting in terms of nose and profile, palate profile, because there's different styles. There's what we call kind of the older, more traditional style, and then we've got the newer, more extracted, fruit-forward style. So if you have more of the older style, it's going to have more oak, American oak, which would give you like coconut and dill. If you have more of the newer style, you're going to get more fruit, lots of fruit, and also they're going to be using French oak. So the oak influence is going to be a little bit more subtle and more integrated into the wine. So we'll see if anyone comes in on this. Here we got a young wine, so we get lots of fruit, lots of strawberry like leaf. There's a little bit of that. Just like really straightforward fruit on this wine. It's a fairly simple wine, and like I said, we're supposed to only be smelling it. But go ahead and take a sip if you haven't already. I obviously have. I am having too much fun with it. This wine is easy. It's simple, but it's really easy to go down. So, interesting, while you're taking a sip of your wine, I just want to tell you a little bit more about this wine. So this winery, the beginnings of this winery were started back in 1890. And it was the son or grandson, I forget who, but in the 1950s and 60s up till the 1980s, said, we're going to stop selling bulk wine, which is what their grandfather was doing, and we're going to improve quality and bottle our own wine. Well, they did that, and they did it well. And as a result, they made some money, and they started, they got into the juice biz. They became the the second largest juice company in all of Europe. They're huge in terms of juice, okay? So then what happened was in the 1990s, they started buying up wineries all over Spain. Which was their first? This one. And why? Because of what I said before. Rioja is where it's at. If you want to be serious about Spanish wine, they thought, we need a Rioja winery, because Rioja is, when people think of Spain, they think of Rioja and what else?
Jamon.
Yeah, but Karen, of course. Leave it to Karen to think about a jamon or pig or pork, But in terms of wine, what
white or red?
White.
Rueda.
Rueda or sparkling?
Cava.
Cava. So when people think of Spain, they think of Rioja and Cava. So what was the second one they went after? Cava. And little by little, they started accumulating more and more wineries. They're in over 10, no, they're in 10 DOs, Denominación de Orígenes, or regions. So they're in 10 different DOs. And I'll get back to the story. I want to see what people are smelling or tasting right now.
Pretty much everyone is saying A and C.
A and C. Okay. Excuse me. I was like, stall. Okay. So A and C, fruit and spice. Good. Okay. Rioja, this is interesting. Rioja is known more for red fruits. Okay. So lots of strawberries. Definitely the older styles, more red fruits. Now, as you get more into the newer styles, the more extracted, meaning we're gonna, do some more cold soaking and really get some more of the color, and we're gonna maintain more of the fruit by doing a little bit more of a cold soak. Then what you're gonna start to see is maybe some black fruit. But what Rioja is typically known for is red fruit, whereas Ribera del Duero, the other region that's really well known for their their use of Tempranillo, would be more of a black fruit and more of an earth, in fact. Exactly. So if we were looking at a Ribera del Duero next to this, we'd be seeing earth and black fruit, which is interesting. Any other comments over there, Karen?
Sarah wanted to know, I don't know if you want to do it now or maybe towards the end, if you could talk a bit more about Graciano.
Graciano. Okay, Graciano is an interesting grape. It's grown in really small amounts in Rioja, and it's used in small amounts. The reason is, I believe it's a difficult grape to grow, but also it's gonna add a bit of like spice, a little nuance to the wine. And not only that, but Graciano can age quite nicely. So you usually find your blends that are going to age longer having more percentage of Graciano. So when we talk about Rioja specifically, we have our young wine, Joven, and then some of you out there have a Crianza, so it's aged, 2 years, right? And then Reserva is 3 years, and then Gran Reserva is 5 years total. That's the minimum. So your Gran Reserva is only made in your best years, and it's going to have usually a higher percentage of Graciano, also because it's more expensive. Graciano, if it's more difficult to grow, it's more expensive to use in the blend, right? You're going to get lower production on it. So hopefully that helps with Graciano. It's usually a very small percentage. I don't think it usually goes much over 5, maybe 10%. Any other questions?
No. Michael's getting some strawberry and currants on his mystery La Mancha.
Hey, it works for us. Yeah, you could have open tonight a Sauvignon Blanc from Chile, and I'd love it. So whatever you got there. It gives us some perspective. What's the Tempranillos in La Mancha tasting like versus the Tempranillos in Rioja. So, let me tell you a little bit more about this winery, because this really just blew me away. So now they buy up all these wineries, and like I said, the second one they bought was actually a cava. Guess what cava it was? I'm putting her on the spot over and over. Think the cava in America.
I would say either Fregenet or Cristalino.
Cristalino. Okay, so Fregenet is going to be one of the largest sparkling wine producers, but the one cava or sparkling wine from Spain that's outside of Fregenet is Cristalino. It's everywhere, okay? So I all of a sudden saw this, like, oh my God, they own Cristalino too? Like, I never knew this, and I feel like this is just like flown under the radar screen for me. I'm constantly, talking about these deals from Spain, and I had no idea. Did anyone else out there know that? Am I like the only one who's like just flabbergasted by this news? I think I am just like, what is going on? So anyway, so if you haven't had Cristalino before, it's usually under $10. I mean, it used to be $6.99, then it was $8.99, now it's about $9.99. And it usually gets 90 plus points. Not that points are everything, but to consistently get that means that there is some quality, and I've tried it a number of times. It's a great value. So here we've got this wine that is just like, again, $6.99 and sweeping it up. Then we got Cristalino in their portfolio. What is going on in this place? I mean, like I said, they're just like flying under the radar screen. Get this. They are the #1 producer of wine in Europe.
Wow.
Huge. And do you know what it's called? No. Like, we all know the big, Gallo. We all know Gallo, right? The big company in America. And yet, I don't think any of us knew the biggest wine company in all of Europe. Like the motherland for wine. I'm blown away.
Apparently your mother knew that.
What? She knew what?
She said I knew that.
Oh, okay.
Cristalino. I think she's a Cristalino fan.
Oh, okay. You're BSing me. You didn't know that. So anyway, I mean, sorry if I'm getting a little too excited about this, but when I was looking up this wine today, I expected to find, it's a little co-op wine, meaning, a lot of farmers pool their resources and make a wine together, and that's why it's so cheap. There's no marketing, and really there's very little marketing with this wine. Very little marketing. And so now we know why this can be so cheap is because they have economies of scale. Huge economies of scale. Now, this is where I want you guys to put your thinking caps on. So, I want to know, knowing this about the wine, would it change what you think about it? Would it change your opinion about it? I mean, I will say it changed mine. When I thought this was a little quaint little wine that was made by all these, cute farmers who are, I don't mean to patronize them, but people who are working hard and, doing their job. And then I found out that it's the biggest company in Europe, and then I started to kind of argue with myself. I get a little kooky when I'm working. And so I just want to throw out a couple of the counter arguments that I pose to myself. Okay. So, and I want to know what you guys would think. Would it change the way, if you like this wine, it was $7 and you're like, wow, because this is a smooth wine for $7. Are you enjoying it?
Yeah, I am. It's very good.
I'm obviously enjoying it. Okay. So I want to know though, what you think, or if it would change the way you think about the wine. And then if it would, I want you to put this in the back of your head. Okay. In 100 years, this family-owned winery went from being your neighbor, just another winemaker, to basically ruling all of Europe. Okay. Maybe it's the business side of me, but I find that very intriguing, impressive, and I don't know the full story. I don't know if they trampled over people to get there or if they did it, in a very honest way. I don't know. But that is intriguing to me. I really would love to know how they did something like that. When you have a field full of a number of people doing the same thing and one just rises to the top, it's interesting. The second thing I want you to think about is, well, what if they're using their power for good? Superman, he's good if he uses it for good, but if, Lex Luthor gets a hold of him and he's, you doing it for bad, then it's not so good. But what I did find out about these guys is that over the past decade, they invested over $1 billion in vineyards and wineries all over Spain because they have 10 different regions. Now, I don't think, it's probably not a coincidence that coincided with this elevation of quality, overall quality in Spain. $1 billion going into the wine economy in Spain did help the little guys too. It gave money in their pockets. You know what I saw some of my winemaker friends in Spain doing? Waiting for the big guys to experiment and fail and then try again and spend money experimenting, and then once they got it, said, now I'm going to do it, and I'm going to do it cheap because I don't need to make any errors doing it. So I had friends who actually said, I'm waiting until they've already figured it out. I'm seeing if American oak goes well with Mencia, something along those lines. So it did help the little guys, and if actually Wine Enthusiast did an article. I uncovered all this stuff. I'm telling you, I was like a super sleuth today. This should have taken me 10 minutes, and 3 hours later, here I am. But Wine Enthusiast did an article on them in 2011, calling them one of the most innovative wineries. And what one of their missions is to use their economies of scale to bring the price of wine down, but keep the level of quality good. And that intrigues me. To say that what they're trying to do is make wine a grocery and not a luxury. I like that. That brings people into the market, and then once we get our hands on them, give them a little knowledge, then they're going to buy more and more wine. But we need to get them in the door first, and that's a great way to do it. If you only have a $2 to $5 investment you have to make to have a bottle of wine, and it's a good bottle of wine too, then you say, well, okay, I'm kind of intrigued. Where's this from? What is it? What grape is it? And then we get our hands on them, and then they start buying more, and they help everyone out, the big guys and the little guys. So, Karen, you got any thoughts on it?
I don't know if it's, I mean, I think the consensus on the chat roll is kind of how I feel as well, is that kind of try to stay away from the large conglomerates and you romanticize the little producers and this and that. But I also need a cheap wine to drink nightly. You know? So this is something that I would definitely, I mean, I have been enjoying it, would definitely buy to have and open up just to drink half a bottle with dinner or something like that.
Yeah, and that's just it. I mean, if you want to have a good quality wine at under $7, not many of our small guys are going to be able to do it. So it's you know, and I don't think they will necessarily price a small guy out of the market either, because the small guy is going to have his own niche market. So no, I agree, and it was interesting because as I was you know, exploring all this and thinking about it, I was like, oh, it's a big company, like, oh, and then I was like, you little wine snot, like, reverse wine snot, kind of like, I can only have, you know, I was like, no, you know what, is you know, right now, I think the buzzwords are, you know, small and local, good, big and corporate, bad, you know, and there are some truths to that, but I also don't want to just blindly think that. I want to dig beneath the surface and, you know, really think about it and make sure the way we're voting is with our dollars is what we want to do. So, anything else out there?
No, that's pretty much it. That, you know, people said, though, that they're, you know, try to be open-minded, and if, you know, they really did like the wine, then it probably wouldn't matter so much. But, you know, I think, you know, if they tried the wine and found out after, like, you know, in this case, then it probably wouldn't matter, but if I knew that before and then tried the wine, I might be a little more skeptical or judgmental.
Sure.
You know?
Yeah, definitely. Good point. Well, good stuff. Well, I hope you guys I hope your head's not hurting at all from thinking, and it was just hurting from drinking wine. Hopefully that's the goal here. And just to let you guys know, we have finally finalized the contract with the U.S. government. So I'm going over to the Republic of Georgia in mid-April. So there'll be no winecasts at that point. And also at the end of May, I'm going. So we'll have more on the website in probably next week sometime, so you can read all about it if you want. And by the way, that's the new. We'll talk about that another night. So, but check out the new calendar. That calendar is set to go and has all the new wine casts on it. And if you liked what you saw, tell a friend, invite them over. You know, we wanna see this grow. So that's all we've got for tonight. I'm Jessica Bell from My Wine School, where it is wine your way.